Hello, my name is Pierpaolo Festa. I work with Korea United, and I'm here talking to Simon Lereng Wilmont about his film, The Distant Barking of Dogs, which will open our initiative on Filmmakers for Ukraine of the online charity screenings. Simon, good to meet you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for your wonderful film. Let me set up the film. The Distant Barking of Dogs is a documentary film about Oleg, a 10-year-old boy who lives with his grandmother, Alexandra, in a small town near the front line of the Ukrainian war. I wanted to ask you about, your cinema, this film, and the new film that you have, A House Made of Splinters, focuses on kids who are forced to grow up because of their environment. So they need to speed and grow up, but at the same time, they are still kids. Can you tell me a little bit about your interest about these topics?
Yeah, as it was before these two films, I made two short films, documentaries for kids also. And when I was done with those two films, I noticed that both of those two short docs were about, kids that had very safe lives. And the films was about, that safe life being temporarily knocked out of balance and them regaining that balance and inspiring other kids with their story. And when I was finished, I kind of looked up and I noticed, the world was full of conflict in 2014-15 with so many conflicts going on. And I realized there must be so many kids living in the exact opposite world where their life is very unsafe. And I got super interested in finding out where do kids that have very unsafe life go to find comfort and strength that I feel you need to grow up without too many scars on your soul. And that's what led me to Ukraine in the first place. Like for me, that period in childhood where you start to realize that there's a whole adult world out there and you need to adjust and adapt to that. That's a super dramatic time. It's a time of great change and great sorrow, but also great joy. And I feel that time speaks a lot about who we develop to be as grown-ups. So that's why I'm so interested in kids in these situations, because they're facing challenges that normal kids are not. And they have to overcome and adapt to those.
The international critics, they were agreeing on the fact that your film shows the normalization of fear in a time of war. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it true that you went school from school asking kids about fear and you chose Oleg because he gave you a very good answer?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I went there with my amazing assistant director and fixer Asad Safarov, and we simply just went from frontline school to frontline school down in the south. Of the then front line of the war in Ukraine. And we were very well received, and we spoke to a lot of kids that came from villages that was either shelled or close to shelling. And a lot of them were not really able to put into words their feelings when they were afraid. And that would always be the last question I would ask them. When I got to Oleg, I still remember that day. And I asked him, as the final question, how does it feel like when you're afraid? And he paused a little bit. And then he said, when they start shooting up near the edge of my town, it's like there's this invisible hand that goes into my chest and grips my heart. And for every boom there is, the hand squeezes my heart a little bit tighter until it's just small and cold. And then he chuckled a little bit and he said, that's how I feel when I'm afraid. And, I knew immediately at that point, this is the main character of this film.
It's amazing. And I want to ask you about gaining the trust of the kids, of course. You said that it was easier to get the trust of their kids rather than the grandmother, for example. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Like Knutova is a very small town, rural town also. And I think for Oleg and his comrades, I think that me and Asad were like Martians, and he was filled with curiosity about where I was from and how life was there, and why would you come to a city or a small town like this and be interested in our lives, you know? So they were super happy to hang out and practice English and all of that. Whereas Alexandra was a little bit more reluctant to let us into their lives, because there were different rumors. Some of the rumors were going on in these areas. I was told was that there were, you know, actually organ thieves posing as journalists or NGO people to try and kidnap kids and take out, you know, their organs. But I don't think there's this much truth through it. But I can understand the rumor and the fear of that.
Yeah. So did you go back to be a child, talking to them, or you were a fly on the wall?
I spent a lot of time just hanging out with them and doing what they like to do, to get to know them and their world, and try to figure out Oleg's feelings and his look on the world that he was growing up in. And then when I would start shooting, you know, they're very happy to hang out with me. And the problem was actually for them to stop noticing the camera. And I found out that if I just said, you know, for the next hour, I'm not here, then for the first 10 minutes, maybe they would really tease me and look straight into the camera, even though I told them not to. But at some point, if I didn't react to that, they would start to be bored with me. And then they would turn to each other and say, so what should we do, you know? And that's where the magic starts, because that's their own will taking over. And yeah.
Yeah. The film came out first in 2017, and we're still talking about it. We're still watching. The film was screened again since the beginning of the war now. Yeah. I want to know, is there any particular feedback that you treasure also from a younger audience? Because this film is very accessible for a younger audience.
Yeah, I feel maybe mostly for the younger audience, what they hit upon is how different, but still also how similar their life is to Oleg. And that doesn't really matter where in the world I am, you know, there is some universal kid's life also in this film, even though it's a war zone. And I recognize that because it reminds me also of my own childhood. And I feel that it's so strong. It's such a strong message that there are, you know, even wherever we are in the world, there's something that's constant, like in this kid's life.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you how this experience and your 6-year experience in Ukraine filming kids has changed you as a father.
I think I might have gotten a little bit more strict with my own children, not to be too spoiled, and definitely, I think I hug them a lot more than I'm used to. You know, I really cherish them, and I let them know how fortunate they are to have been born in a country like this, where there's peace and stability and wealth also. So I think that's the main things that's changed me as a father, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Simon, everybody asks you about the relationship you still have with Oleg and his grandmother. I want to ask you this way. How was during these years, since the finishing of the filming till now? Were you in touch?
Yeah. We've kept in touch both, you know, online, and I also been to visit them. Actually, I was there as late as May last year, having a barbecue and reconnecting, you know, in real life. So we've been keeping in close contact. We were also in close contact just before the major invasion, this awful invasion that has happened. And we were actually hearing from Alexandra. We could understand that she was getting more and more worried because the fighting down in the southern part of the front line was growing more and more fierce up until the 24th of February. So we had actually planned a vacation for her, so she wouldn't need to leave her home only temporarily. We persuaded her to go to the western parts of Ukraine, and we even bought train tickets and you know, reserved the house for her. But the train tickets were for the 24th of February in the morning. So, you know, I was waking up thinking that now they will be safe, you know, and Instead, I have these awful messages coming from them that it's insane here and it's bombs all over, and please pray for us because there is no way out of this. So we were like running around ourselves in circles, me and Asad, I think for a couple of hours until later the day where we were told that they actually made it to safety. That safety turned out to be Mariupol, which of course many of you know the story of that city, or that doesn't really exist anymore. So they were trapped in Mariupol for some time until finally they were able to get out of the city and contact us. And now we've managed to get them safely to the western parts of Ukraine where they're safe now.
Good, they're safe.
Yeah.
Simon, about your 6-year experience of filming in Ukraine, can we say that you have a love story with this country?
Absolutely. Especially the East, I would say. I really enjoyed, meeting the people there. They're incredible, and it's a hard place to be. It's always been a hard place to be, I think. But the people are so warm-hearted and good-natured, and the humor is excellent. I feel so well received once you get by that first initial skepticism. It's really warm hearts beating behind those people, and yeah, I love that place. But now, obviously, it's difficult to say if I will ever be back. I hope so, but yeah, I'll keep that hope alive, I think.
And my last question is this: it's the news from this week that they are starting shooting again in Ukraine. There is this first production. The Day I Met Spider-Man. They're shooting commercials. You cannot stop storytelling. At the same time, the productions from overseas and from Western Europe, they will not stop shooting in Eastern Europe. So films get produced in countries even within a war. Can I have a comment from you about that?
Yeah, I think that for now, there's so many amazing film professionals from Ukraine still working in Ukraine, still living in Ukraine, and some of them even also fighting for Ukraine. And I think that whatever support, be that work or moral support or financial support, they need it. And they will, for the coming years, they will have stories to tell us about what's happening right now that I think is hugely important. So for anybody to help them in any way, I would strongly urge people to do that.
Thank you for this, and thank you for helping us with your film. And
my pleasure.
Thank you.